In times like these, it's so natural to feel stress, to feel a little bit of overwhelm, some anxiety, just the lack of clarity that we have about the future is unnerving. And candidly, as an entrepreneur for over 25 years, I spent a lot of time in that place because even if we're really driven and doing all of the right things, there are things that are out of our control. We're living in one of those moments right now when there's so many things that create anxiety and uncertainty. It's very easy to lose perspective. So years ago, I found a secret weapon, and the great news is it is a free thing, but it's a lesson I learned from someone, so I want to share that story with you. So this dates back to when I sold one of my companies years ago to NBC Sports. I spent a couple of months as a senior executive for the acquirer for NBC Sports and met a lot of really talented people there. And one individual stood out, not necessarily because of his specific talents, although he was very talented, but he was such a unique guy because you could tell he was mentally tough beyond belief. And I guess because my life, I've felt like I've been on a roller coaster at various points, I always had a lot of respect for people that just seemed mentally tough. And this gentleman was an ex-fighter pilot. He was an extreme athlete. So if you looked at his resume, you would certainly detect that this person's probably mentally tough. You don't do those things if you're not mentally tough. But there was one moment in particular that really stood out, and it was something that stuck with me to this day. And it was basically, we were talking, it was kind of that water cooler conversation. We were talking about his previous weekend. We were just small talk. What did you do this weekend? What did you do this weekend? And he was talking about how he and his friends had just competed in this insane race. It was a cross-country skiing marathon. I'll put a link below. You can look it up. It's pretty insane. I don't know why anybody would want to do this thing. But it's basically doing a marathon in the hills, the snow-covered, tough terrain of sort of backwoods Wisconsin. And as he was telling this story, he was talking about a particular moment when one of the individuals he was with was complaining and saying, I can't believe we have to do, say, 5 more of these blank hills. And he was talking about how they had been out in the woods, in the wilderness, suffering for hours and hours and hours, and there were more to go, and we just have to do it to finish it. And so this individual says, I looked at him and I said, you don't have to, you get to. And I can still kind of feel almost the chills and see his smiling face as he told the story. And what he meant as he was smiling is, these individuals chose to do that race. They were healthy. They were the kind of people that were capable of doing this kind of thing. And it was really flipping the narrative that he was telling his teammates, the people that was with him, about the situation they were in. You don't have to, you get to. And so I really thought about that a lot over the subsequent week, and it became this really powerful tool about how you or I can flip the narrative when things around us are really challenging. And so you'll find yourself saying, I have to figure this out. I have to get through this. I lost my job. I have to find another one. I lost my income. I have to find some money. And the simple trick is to flip the narrative and say, I don't have to, I get to. And this isn't psychobabble, mumbo jumbo. This is really, truly what your brain tells yourself. And so if you can flip the narrative that you're telling yourself, your perspective changes almost immediately. So let me give you an example. If you're sitting at home right now and you're thinking, I have to work in this environment with kids and dogs and chaos, and I don't have the right bandwidth, and I don't have the right monitor, and I don't have the right equipment, if you just flip the narrative and say, I don't have to work from home, I get to work from home. And you think about, what does that mean? Well, maybe you get to learn a new way to be productive. Maybe you get to spend more time with your family. Maybe you get to take a walk outside in nature in the middle of the day versus sit in a cubicle in an uptown building. And so that simple perspective, if you kind of run down the trail, is a tool that will fundamentally shift your thinking. Your brain will go to work on new possibilities. You might be thinking, I have to find a new job. If you flip the narrative, I get to find a new job. I've always wanted to pursue something different, and now I get to. Now I get to talk to people that I haven't had time to really spend time with. I get to discuss my life, my career, my potential, what's out there. I get to do those things. So when you find yourself in a situation like we all are feeling right now, where we're having to deal with these situations, we have to do certain things, simply flip the narrative and you get to do those things. That becomes a powerful tool. I've got a whole blog post on it and some more resources for you, so just click below. But I hope you can learn to flip the narrative, because you don't have to, you get to.